I never thought I'd see it with my own eyes. Sienna, the woman I trusted with everything, kissing another man in the backseat of his car. Her hands on his face, his fingers in her hair, and her laughter echoing in the parking lot like a knife twisting in my chest. She denied it for weeks, called me paranoid, until the night I pressed play on the video that changed everything. My name is Evan, I'm 29, and I live in Manchester, UK. For the past 3 years, I thought I had found the love of my life in Sienna, my girlfriend. She was beautiful, ambitious, and full of the kind of energy that made every room feel brighter. When I introduced her to my best friend Chris, he even joked, "Mate, don't ever screw this up. Girls like her are rare." Back then, I believed it. Our relationship started in the most ordinary way. We met at a friend's birthday dinner, sitting across from each other at a long table crowded with people. She laughed at my awkward jokes, and I noticed how she brushed her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. By the end of that night, we were trading numbers and talking like we'd known each other forever. It felt natural, easy. For 2 years, things were nearly perfect. Weekend trips to London, movie nights, cooking disasters in my tiny flat. We built memories that made me sure she was the one. My mom adored her. My friends would tell me how lucky I was, and I felt lucky. She was more than a girlfriend. She felt like family already. But looking back, I can trace the first crack in our foundation to last winter. Sienna started spending more time with a new circle of friends, people I didn't know well, one of them being Arya. She told me Arya was a colleague from her office, someone fun and outgoing. Nothing seemed off at first. Sienna deserved her own social life, and I trusted her completely. Then came the late nights. She would text me at 11 p.m. saying, "Running late, don't wait up." At first I didn't mind. Work could be demanding, and she had the right to her independence. But when late nights at work turned into unexplained weekends away with Arya, my chest tightened with worry. "Are you sure it's just work?" I asked her one Sunday morning when she came home smelling faintly of a new perfume I didn't recognize. She laughed, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Evan, you sound ridiculous. Don't be insecure." I wanted to believe her, but something didn't sit right. One evening, I met Chris for a pint at our local pub. I told him about the changes I'd noticed. He listened quietly and finally said, "Mate, women don't just change routines like that for no reason. Keep your eyes open." His words stayed in my head like an echo. The real turning point came in March. Sienna had told me she was working late again, but while scrolling through Uber receipts on the shared email account we use for deliveries, I noticed something odd. She had taken an Uber at 10:45 p.m., not to her office, but to a hotel near Piccadilly Station. My heart pounded. I told myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe she met Arya there for drinks, maybe a work event. But the doubt grew heavy. That night I confronted her. "Were you at the Piccadilly Hotel last night?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Her eyes flickered for a split second before she said, "No, of course not. Why would I be there?" I showed her the Uber receipt. She froze, then quickly forced a smile. "Oh, that must have been Arya using my account. You know she borrows it sometimes." It sounded thin, but I wanted to believe her. My heart overruled my brain. Over the next few weeks, the excuses piled up. Unexpected business trips, her phone suddenly locked with a new passcode, and moments where she would step outside to take work calls in the middle of dinner. Each red flag burned brighter, but I stayed silent, afraid that if I pushed too hard, I'd lose her. One night, I decided to test something. I pretended to be asleep when she left my flat around midnight. Quietly, I followed her in my car, headlights off, keeping my distance. She drove to a dimly lit parking lot behind a cinema. I parked a street away and waited. Minutes later, another car pulled up beside hers. A man got out. She rushed into his arms like she'd been waiting for him all night. My chest caved in as I watched them kiss passionately under the orange glow of a flickering streetlight. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My entire world felt like it was collapsing, yet I couldn't move. The scene played in front of me like a cruel movie I couldn't pause. After a while, they slipped into his car, and the windows fogged up. That was when I knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. I stayed there for nearly an hour, numb and shaking, Finally, I drove home in silence, replaying the moment again and again in my head. The next morning, Sienna came back to my flat, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Good morning, love," she said, kissing my cheek. I stared at her, wondering how someone could lie so effortlessly. But I kept quiet. I needed more than just my own eyes. I needed undeniable proof. That's when I decided to set up a small camera in my car. If she was going to meet him again, I would have everything on video. The night I planted the small hidden camera inside my car, my hands shook the entire time. I'd never imagined I would reach a point where I had to spy on the woman I loved. But I needed undeniable proof, something she couldn't laugh off, couldn't twist into another excuse. I told Chris about my plan, half expecting him to call me crazy. Instead, he just nodded grimly. "You need peace of mind, mate. Otherwise, she'll keep gaslighting you until you doubt your own sanity." His words stung because they were true. 2 days later, the chance came. Sienna told me she was heading out with Arya again, insisting I shouldn't wait up. My heart pounded as she kissed me goodbye. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I jumped into mine and drove the same route I had taken before, praying my plan would work. I parked at the same spot near the cinema parking lot and left the camera rolling. It was tiny, barely noticeable, positioned perfectly on the dashboard to capture anyone who stepped inside. Then I waited. Minutes stretched into hours and doubt gnawed at me. What if she didn't show up? What if she had changed her routine? But around 11:30 p.m., headlights flashed across the lot. Sienna's car pulled in. A few minutes later, another car rolled up beside hers. My stomach clenched when I saw her rush into the man's arms again, just like before. They disappeared into his car, and from where I sat, I couldn't see everything. But the camera inside my car did. After 20 minutes, the man's car door opened, and to my disbelief, Sienna led him straight into my car. They must have thought it was safer, more hidden. Through the camera's lens, I watched her kiss him passionately, her hands roaming his shoulders. My blood boiled, yet I stayed quiet, sitting in the shadows. Every second was like swallowing glass, but I let the tape roll. When they finally left, I drove home in silence, my chest hollow, my mind numb. At 3 a.m., I sat at my laptop replaying the footage. There she was, Sienna, the woman who had once whispered she couldn't imagine life without me, entangled with another man in the very car I bought with money I had saved for years. The proof was undeniable. The next morning, she strolled into my flat with a coffee in her hand, as if nothing had happened. "Morning, babe," she said casually. I stared at her, wondering how she could stand there so calm while my entire world was collapsing. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I waited. I wanted to see how far she would go with her lies. For the next few days, I watched her routine closely. She texted me sweet messages, sent selfies from work, and even planned a date night. It was surreal, like living with two versions of her, the loving girlfriend and the secret betrayer. On Friday, Chris came over and I showed him the video. He swore under his breath, shaking his head. "Mate, I'm so sorry, but you've got her. There's no denying this." Hearing it from him made it real. My pain turned into anger, sharp and heavy. That night, I decided it was time. I invited Sienna over for dinner, telling her I wanted a quiet night in. She showed up looking stunning, wearing a new dress I hadn't seen before. She smiled, kissed me, and poured herself a glass of wine like everything was normal. Halfway through dinner, I set my fork down and looked at her. "Where were you last Tuesday night?" I asked. She blinked, then laughed lightly. "Work, of course, you already know that." I leaned back, my eyes locked on hers. "Funny, because I've got video that says otherwise." Her smile froze. "What are you talking about?" I reached for the laptop I had placed on the counter. With trembling hands, I hit play. The footage filled the screen. Her in my car, kissing him, touching him, the sound of her laughter, the sight of her betrayal, all captured in brutal clarity. She gasped, covering her mouth. "Evan, it's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like?" My voice cracked, anger bubbling over. "You're in my car with another man, Sienna. Do you think I'm blind? Do you think I'm stupid?" Tears welled in her eyes. She tried reaching for my hand, but I pulled back. Please, I can explain. It was a mistake. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking. I cut her off. Don't insult me with excuses. This wasn't one night. I followed you. I've seen you with him more than once. How many times have you lied to my face? Her tears fell, but her words were empty. It didn't mean anything, Evan. I love you, not him. I let out a bitter laugh. You love me? You love me while sneaking around in parking lots and hotels? Love doesn't look like that. She sobbed harder, but I felt nothing except a cold emptiness. The girl I once adored had shattered into someone unrecognizable. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was her crying. Then I stood up and walked to the door. Get out, Sienna. Just get out. She begged, pleaded, promised it would never happen again. But her words washed over me like static. I opened the door and waited until she finally left. Her mascara streaked across her cheeks, her figure disappearing into the night. When the door shut, the silence was deafening. My hands shook, my chest ached, but there was also a strange clarity. The lies were over. I had my proof, and I had my answer. Chris came over later that night with a bottle of whiskey. We sat in silence for a while before he said, "You did the right thing, mate. She never deserved you." I wanted to believe him, but the wound was too fresh. I had invested 3 years into a woman who could throw it all away for secret trysts in the back of cars. The next day I blocked her number, deleted her photos, and returned every gift she had given me. It felt like tearing out pieces of my heart, but I knew I had to do it. Holding on would only poison me further. A week later, she tried showing up at my door, crying and begging for another chance. I didn't open it. I watched her through the peephole until she finally walked away. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The pain was there, yes, but it was mixed with relief. She was gone, and the truth was finally out. Still, the betrayal lingered like smoke in a room after a fire. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of the story, because betrayal leaves scars, and scars don't fade easily. The week after I confronted Sienna felt like walking through fog. Every room in my flat seemed haunted by her presence, her hairbrush left on the dresser, her sweater folded on the chair, her favorite mug on the counter. I wanted to throw it all out, but part of me hesitated, like getting rid of her things would make the breakup real in a way I wasn't ready for. Chris checked in almost every day. He knew me well enough not to sugarcoat it. "Evan, she's not coming back as the person you loved. That version of her is gone. What's left is the liar. You need to accept that." His words were sharp, but they kept me grounded. The betrayal didn't just hurt, it infected everything. I couldn't sleep without replaying the video in my head, her laughter echoing in my chest like a wound that refused to close. At work, I sat at my desk, staring at spreadsheets that blurred together. People asked if I was okay. I lied, saying I was tired. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was lying to cover up the damage caused by her lies. But anger began to replace the sadness. Anger at her for humiliating me, and anger at myself for ignoring the signs for so long. I had swallowed excuse after excuse, desperate to protect the picture of us I had built in my head. And now that picture lay shattered at my feet. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I saw her. Sienna had posted a photo with Arya at a rooftop bar, smiling like she hadn't just ripped my life apart. Dozens of comments praised her beauty, her boss babe energy. No one knew the truth. She was living her double life without consequence, while I sat in silence with the proof burning in my laptop. That's when the idea came. If she wasn't going to own the truth, I would make sure it came out. Chris was hesitant when I told him, "Mate, are you sure? Exposing her publicly, it could backfire, make you look petty." But I shook my head. This isn't about pettiness. It's about honesty. People need to see who she really is. She lied to me, to everyone. Why should she get to walk away spotless? The next day, I clipped together a short video from the footage. Nothing graphic, just the undeniable evidence. Her in my car, kissing him, laughing, betraying. I blurred the guy's face. This wasn't about him. This was about her. I didn't upload it to social media, though. Instead, I sent it privately, to Arya, to her closest friends, even to her mother, who had once told me she thought I was the best thing that ever happened to Sienna. The fallout was immediate. My phone buzzed nonstop with shocked messages. Arya replied first. "Evan, I had no idea. I thought she was with you the whole time. I'm so sorry." Her mother called me in tears, apologizing for her daughter's actions, promising she had no idea what Sienna had been doing. And then came the texts from Sienna herself. Dozens of them, frantic, desperate. "Why would you do this? You're ruining my life. Please, Evan, let's talk. We can fix this." For the first time, the balance shifted. She wasn't in control anymore. I was. A part of me felt vindicated. For weeks, a part of me felt vindicated. For weeks, I had carried the weight of her betrayal alone. Now the mask was off, and everyone could see her for who she really was. But another part of me felt hollow. Revenge didn't heal the wound. It only stopped the bleeding. A few nights later, she showed up at my flat unannounced. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse from crying. "Evan, please. I made a mistake. I lost myself, but I never stopped loving you. Don't throw us away." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I had once pictured marrying, the woman I had thought would be the mother of my children, now stood before me exposed, broken, and desperate. And all I felt was emptiness. "Do you know what hurts the most?" I asked quietly. "It's not that you kissed someone else. It's not even that you slept with him. It's that you looked me in the eye night after night and lied. You made me question my sanity, made me doubt myself. That's what destroyed us." Tears streamed down her cheeks. She reached for me, but I stepped back. "I can't trust you, Sienna. And without trust, there's nothing left." She sobbed, begging me to reconsider, but I opened the door. "Goodbye, Sienna." This time she left without looking back. The weeks that followed were difficult, but strangely liberating. I threw out her belongings one by one, reclaiming my space. I started running again, pounding the pavement until my lungs burned, chasing the feeling of freedom. Chris dragged me out to football matches, reminding me that life still existed beyond heartbreak. Slowly, the fog lifted. The pain didn't vanish, but it dulled. I began to see the breakup not as the end of my life, but as the end of an illusion. The woman I had loved wasn't real, not anymore. What was real was the strength I found in surviving her betrayal. Months later, I ran into Arya at a coffee shop. She looked embarrassed, almost guilty, but she offered me a kind smile. "I heard you're doing better," she said softly. I nodded, and for the first time in a long while, I actually meant it. Walking home that day, I realized something important. Betrayal may scar you, but it also teaches you. It teaches you to listen to your instincts, to value honesty above sweet words, and to never ignore the little red flags that whisper the truth. Sienna tried texting me once more, a long message about how she was working on herself and how she hoped one day I could forgive her. I never replied. Some doors once closed should never reopen. Because love without trust isn't love. It's just a lie dressed in pretty words. And I refuse to live inside a lie ever again. Trust once broken doesn't heal the same way. If someone lies once, they might do it again. And ignoring red flags only makes them brighter until you can't avoid them.